Welcome to the construction of St. Peter's Basilica, a visual history. In this tutorial, the building history of the structure that is at the center of Catholicism will be narrated and visualized through a 3D virtual reality experience. Please be aware that the surroundings of the Basilica and the Borgo have been displayed as a stagnant site, in controversy with historical accuracy, due to the processing power issues. In 64 AD, when Emperor Nero decided he needed space to build his Domus Aurea, or Golden House, he set a fire to Rome that destroyed the majority of Rome in its wake. A scapegoat was needed, and it was in this time of paganism that the still mysterious cult of Christianity was an easy target. When Nero rounded up his scapegoats to be executed as punishment for the fire of Rome, leader of the apostles Peter was amongst the innocent victims. He was famously crucified upside down in the Circus Maximus. He was then buried at a cemetery not far from there. Soon after, a tomb was built for Peter by faithful followers, and mausoleums started being built around his grave by people wanting to be buried in the saint's vicinity. This cemetery still lies on the Vatican Hill, buried under where now rises the mother of all churches, and the umbilicus mundi of the Catholic religion. Fast forward to the year 319 AD. Up to this point, purpose-built churches had not yet been built in Rome, and the Christian religion had been practiced inside homes. Christianity was yet a very modestly expressed religion. When Emperor Constantine declares Christianity the state religion in the years between 319 and 333, that was about to change. In the roughly 260 years that have passed, a modest religious cult had changed into a major social and political force. The site of Old St. Peter's that was built on the Vatican Hill was not approximately where Peter was built. The church was actually designed around the exact location of the tomb, superimposing the altar on the monument. The tomb was then used as the radius from which a circle was drawn to decide on the curve for the apse. It is the year 1450 when Pope Nicholas V moves the papacy from St. John the Lateran to St. Peter's because of the Vatican's superior security provided by the wall circuits, one of which contains a tunnel leading to Castel San Angelo. Nicholas V also understood that the 1200-year-old basilica was due for restoration and an expansion to accommodate the increasing number of pilgrims. Rossellino was commissioned to expand the choir, but when the pontiff passes away in 1455, nothing was done until the election of Julius II in 1503. It is the year 1505 when it is decided that instead of finishing the choir expansion, a completely new church worthy of Julius II's mausoleum was to be built. It took a man with Julius II's confidence to destroy a church as hallowed and significant as Old St. Peter's, and to commission what was to become known as the New St. Peter's. No lesser Renaissance figure than Bramante was appointed chief architect of this project. He would be the first in a long line of architects to work on the massive basilica. In this process of design by the many masters involved, the graphic conventions and means of representation used by architects still today were changed and solidified forever. This project was so grand in skill that it changed the definition of architecture as a craft itself. On April 18, 1506, the cornerstone of the new church was laid, and Bramante's original plan has come down to us in the form of a coin minted in commemoration of this event. The Renaissance ideal of mathematical perfection came forward in the form of a Greek cross plan. The longitudinal plan we see today is the result of many alterations to this first plan. The contention between the two plans were not simply aesthetical, but more so ideological. The mathematical perfection represented by the centralized plan was a symbolic reflection of the perfection of God, within its exact center under the altar, the tomb of Peter. However, a longitudinal plan had many practical benefits, such as providing a much better stage for processions. It is thought that the clergy forced this onto Bramante, and it led to the final longitudinal plan by Bramante, of which no documentation is left. Bramante's plan included a giant, single-vaulted dome resting on 4 massive piers. This would later become a point of contention, since the plans were not feasible, or as Sir Leo said, they were bold rather than well considered. In 1513, Julius II dies, and Leo X is elected as Pope. The new Pope was less interested in the project than his predecessor. When in the ensuing year Bramante passes and Raphael is appointed chief architect, not much of Bramante's plan had come into fruition, except for the foundations of the main piers and the setting out of the great arches linking the piers. Rossellino's walls of the choir extension were absorbed in the construction of the vault of the west choir. Raphael, assisted from 1516 and on by Antonio da Sangallo the Younger, had to decide how to progress from the remains of Bramante's undocumented plan. Many studies were conducted by Raphael and his team, which was fortified by Peruzzi in 1520. Construction under Raphael went slowly because of depletion of the papal treasury, in addition to Leo X's weaker interest in the project. Yet the designs made in this period had a determining influence on the development of this new style. His plans included a longitudinal plan with side aisles and ambulatories around the transepts. In 1520, the death of Raphael was followed by the appointment of Antonio da Sangallo the Younger as chief architect, with Baldassare Peruzzi as his collaborator. In 1521, Sangallo presents new plans to Leo X. The design embodied a compromise between the Bramantesque Greek cross and Raphael's Latin cross plan. The plan consisted of a Greek cross plan with an extension that formed a separate space that transitioned into a narthex. Pope Leo was succeeded by Clement VII in 1523, and work continued in a slow pace until the sack of Rome in 1527 caused the abandoning of all construction projects in Rome. Clement fled in this period only to return to Rome in 1531, limiting the construction only to the essential parts of the basilica. Clement's successor Paul III instructed Sangallo the Younger and Peruzzi to come up with completely new proposals. A decision was made to revert back to a Bramantesque Greek cross plan, of which no plans have been handed down. However, a wooden model still remains today, that was in scale as grand as the project it reflected. Peruzzi passed in 1536, at which point Sangallo takes control of the project indisputably. Major contributions attributed to Sangallo are reinforcements of the central piers and the proposal of a more elaborate dome. When Sangallo died in 1546, his model was not yet completed. It is a year later when Michelangelo, now also known as Michelangelo Architetto, is assigned as chief architect. In a fit of rivalry, Michelangelo decided to ignore Sangallo's design, and moreover, reverse the work he had already established. Michelangelo decided to revert back to a Greek cross plan. It took the genius of a Renaissance man like Michelangelo to solve the structural problems which had proven insoluble to his predecessors. He was responsible for the strengthening of the outer walls and the elimination of the ambulatories of the arms of the cross, as well as the campanili. By the time Michelangelo passed away in 1564, the south arm of the cross was finished. In the north arm, only a part of the vaulting was incomplete. Little work left to do on the drum of the dome. Michelangelo's plan was well respected by his successors, Ligorio and Fignola, and was brought to execution by them for the most part. In 1574, Giacomo della Porta is appointed architect. He changes Michelangelo's outer shell for the dome from a round to an ovoid shape. The dome was built between 1588 and 1599. Under Pope Paul V Borghese, Maderno was appointed as della Porta's successor. Paul V and Maderno agreed that a longitudinal plan was more fit for the basilica. Maderno is also responsible for the narthex and facade of St. Peter's, which were completed by 1617, concluding the construction of one of the Western world's most complicated and important structures ever built. In the summer of 1656, Bernini began the design of the piazza. After a few design renditions, including a trapezoid plan, Bernini decided to build a piazza in the oval shape that, according to him, represented the motherly arms of the Church, which embraced Catholics to reinforce their belief, heretics to reunite them with the Church, and agnostics to enlighten them with the true faith. This concluded our journey, but feel free to roam around and explore. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial.